Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to tonight's Air Shirley Regional School Committee meeting. It's Tuesday, March 1st, and I will call this meeting to order at 6:31. Those attending tonight's meeting should be aware that the meeting is being audio and video recorded by APAC and ASRSD. Any audience members who wish to record any part of the meeting must inform the chair, who will announce the recording. This is to comply with the Mass Wiretap statute. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So I would ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
People have to sign in because it's a public hearing.
Michelle, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Granger?
Here.
Mr. Quincy? Mrs. Bijou?
Here.
Mr. Rupert?
Here.
Mrs. Simmons?
Here.
Ms. Bailey?
Here. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to open the public budget hearing on the fiscal year 23 proposed budget.
I'll make a motion to open the public budget hearing for fiscal year 23. Proposed budget.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we are now in our public budget hearing on the fiscal year 23 proposed budget. I will ask Mr. Bill Plunkett, our finance manager, to go over a few slides with regards to our budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pared this down from our, I think it was February 18th meeting, so you're probably familiar with some of it, but these are the slides showing our Chapter 70 summary. This is the Air Shirley FY23 Chapter 70 summary. And I want to draw your attention to the top right part for comparisons to FY22. So we are up 16, it's hard to see. We're up 16 students in foundation enrollment, and our foundation budget is up 1.4 million, so that's 7.5%. It's a significant increase, and that's the state calculation to incorporate all the costs for our students, and health insurance and benefits and things like that. Over to the left, you see our calculation of Chapter 70. They put in row 1. It might be easier to see on your on the slide handout, but that's last year's. In row 1 is last year's Chapter 70, 8.35 million, and they take the foundation enrollment budget in row 2 and subtract the required local contributions in row 3 to get the amount that they state feels would be adequate funding for us through Chapter 70. So that is less than we got last year, so we're considered hold harmless. So we get the minimum state aid of $30 per student. That's the $49,740 you see in row 7. And that comes through, gets added, the $49,000 gets added to the last year's amount. So our Chapter 70 funding is $8.4,431. And the bottom chart shows you how steady it has been with the hold harmless. You don't see much of a trend upwards. But that's the Chapter 70 summary for the district. So moving on to the foundation enrollment and required local contributions by town. This splits it up between Air and Shirley, and you can see that we are up 16 students overall, as we saw on that first slide, and our total required local contribution is $761,365. And as we go down, you can see the split between Air. Air is up 30 students, and Shirley is down 14. So Air is absorbing or realizing most of that increase of $761,000 at $520,000 with that increase in students. The next slide shows Shirley's apportionment of the required local contribution across Air Shirley and Neshoba Tech, the two districts that Shirley and Air belong to. So Shirley has realized a decrease in 14 students from FY22 to FY23 for Air Shirley, and a decrease of 5 students in Neshoba Tech. So there actually had a decrease in the required local contribution for Neshoba Tech, and a very modest increase of $240,000 for the Air Shirley School District. Total of $223,000 increase, 487 over last year. And here is the same slide for Air, with the increase of 30 students for this year, and an increase of $520,696 of the required local contribution. And you can see there's an increase of 2 students to Neshoba Tech, an increase of $53,169 over last year. Moving on. Now we plug these numbers. We have our required local contribution in row number 1. That's set by the state. That is not apportioned to the towns by the regional agreement. Rows 2 and 3, net school spending above RLC and transportation, are both apportioned to Air and Shirley according to the regional agreement, which is foundation enrollment, a 5-year rolling average of the foundation enrollment. So currently Air is at 56.5%, and Shirley is at 43.5% for rows 2 and 3. So this is the amount, only the amount above the required local contribution gets apportioned to the towns via that calculation. In row 4 is the capital interest. This calculation is a little bit different because it takes into consideration where the school building is, if you're borrowing for renovations or construction. So this is for the high school field project, the initial borrowing. So that is a blend of a resident enrollment and a 5-year average of resident and foundation enrollment based on the residents and students at the high school, Air and Shirley students at the high school. So we plug those numbers in and we get our operating assessment of $20,402,000. It's a $669,000 increase over last year, or 3.4%. 4.1% increase to Air, mainly because of that increase in RLC, and then a 2.3% increase to Shirley. Next, we add in the excluded debt, which is excluded from the 2.5 tax levy, and it's $1.3 million. It's a 30-year note on the high school for the renovation project, and it's divided between Air and Shirley based on that same split between resident and foundation enrollment. And we see a slight increase to Shirley because of the middle school debt is coming off. It's beginning to come off. That note will be paid off completely in 2026. And Air is getting a little bit of a decrease because of the calculation is shifting a little bit due to some incentives. But the total operating and operating assessment and debt is $21,784,951, which is an increase of $672,478, 3.2%, 3.7% to Air, and 2.5% to Shirley. So that's a pared down version of our budget presentation, just kind of focusing on the state funding and how that all gets plugged into our assessment to the town. Our general fund is the only part of the budget that the assessment is based on. Our grants and our revolving funds are all we use for the budget are not included in the assessment at all. And our general fund increase was only 2.6% increase over last year. This proposal. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Bill. Does anyone have any questions for Bill? Okay, so I will say that this budget was presented to both the Shirley FinCom and Board of Selectmen, as well as the Air FinCom and Boards of Selectmen. So both towns have heard this not this presentation, a more detailed presentation, but have been advised of the budget and how it's been determined.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So the purpose of this public hearing is to invite comments from members of the public regarding the proposed fiscal year 2023 budget that is pending before the school committee. The committee will hear any comments from persons who wish to speak for or against the budget, and so I will ask now if there's anyone in our audience here to speak about the budget. And anyone online, if you're there and would like to speak about the budget during this budget hearing, I'd ask you to put your name in the chat and you will be recognized to speak. Nothing? All right, we'll give it a minute because this technically is supposed to be half hour. Joyce?
Bill, and I probably just overlooked it. So is the state, how much is the state sponsoring transportation this year, or do we know yet?
Well, there was talk at first about being about 80%, but the governor just filed legislation for additional aid to schools and municipalities to get it back up to 90 to 92%. That's what the school aid is targeted at, is for transportation.
For
Biggest chunk of
transportation?
it.
Well, that's the first one.
$2.4 billion package that is additional revenue for FY '22.
So we shouldn't expect that next year then, because it'll all go into,
Well, obviously, their revenues are higher than they expected, so it's always a good thing.
we'll take it. Might not get it again. So the most we've seen in recent years is 60%?
About 10 years ago, it was pretty low.
Yeah,
And then the legislation's been really good about kind of ramping it up.
a little bit at a
Yeah.
time.
They're hearing it from the districts. And of course, charter schools are now eligible for it. So there's more districts sharing that pot of money. So
Okay. Thank you, it's always a hot topic.
It is.
Still no one? Okay. All right, so having heard all comments, seeing no other board comments or public comments, this public hearing on the 1st of March 2022 is now closed at 6:43. I will now entertain a motion to close the public budget hearing. And we'll do this by roll call. I should have done the first vote by roll call, but
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing on the FY '23 proposed budget and return to regular session.
moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Did we want to do roll call?
Oh, yeah, you're right. So, Michelle, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Granger?
Yep.
Mr. Quincy? Mr. Quincy?
Aye.
Mrs. Reshoots?
Aye.
Mr. Rubrick?
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Jan?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Sorry, I'm experiencing technical difficulties here, so I'm trying to log on to the Wi-Fi network. So next we're going to have our high school representative, Miss Alicia Town, give us an update on what's going on at the high school.
All right. A lot of sports information tonight. For our track, IJ and Jacob both went to a competition last weekend, and IJ placed 5th place in the 55 meter and 4th in the 300, which is awesome. And Jacob, I believe, came home with the league champ title, which is great. And I think they're both competing again this weekend at regionals. And for swimming, Lorelai Folger, the senior, placed 4th in the 100 fly, and that's her biggest accomplishment of this year, which is great. And for basketball, girls and boys basketball are both competing tonight for state playoffs, which is very exciting. Last I heard, the girls were up at the end of the third, 27-20. So
There you go.
promising. And they also had the first 50 students to sign up with Mr. Kendall today. They got free, they got to go in the game for free, so I don't have to pay, which
Yeah.
is great. Yeah, other than that, just I'm going to Accepted Students Day at Merrimack this weekend. Gonna see what that's all about and hopefully put a deposit down soon.
It's a great school.
I'm
I
very
went there.
I'm very excited. And that's about it.
Congratulations. So just for clarification, IJ, I believe this weekend was like a meet of champions for Massachusetts, and she came in fourth in the 55 and third in the 300?
Fourth,
Fourth.
I believe, yeah.
What was the 55?
Fifth.
Fifth, okay. But she did win first at the state championship, as did Jacob in the 55-meter hurdle. So that's amazing, amazing accomplishments by our, and of course Lorelei making it to states, and the basketball teams. I mean, just amazing accomplishments by the winter athletes. And those are just, you know, the ones on the top of my head. I know there's just so much to be proud of. So thank you for your update. Good luck at the weekend this weekend, Accepted Students Weekend, and hopefully that will seal the deal for you.
Thank you, I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good about it, so we'll see.
So I'm sure I know where you're going next.
Yeah.
It's okay. Text your mother updates so we know what's happening.
I will. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, so I will now move on to public comment. So if anyone in our audience would like to speak, if you could come up to the podium and just say your name and where you live. Also, I'll open it up right now to our audience. If there's anyone online that would like to speak, if you could put your name in the chat so that you can be recognized. Nothing? All right, we'll give it a minute. For 30 seconds. Still nothing? Okay, so if the person with their hand raised is watching, if you could please put your name in the chat so that we know who to recognize to speak. If that was an error and you don't want to speak, if you could just put that in the chat so that we're not waiting to figure this out.
There's 2 comments that just say chat is disabled, but it is open. So if they'd like to speak, they can speak.
Okay, so I don't know if that was heard by the audience. The chat is open, so please put your name in the chat.
The chat might be disabled, but there's a way as a participant where they should be able to signal, like ask a question, right? I'm trying to think about when I've been on this.
There is a comment that says, my comment is about considering masks for speech-delayed children. They need to be able to see their teacher's mouths. That is Matthew Murphy.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew.
Rachel Robinson would like to talk.
Sure. So just let me know when she's activated.
That's actually
Or
yeah, it's not the guest, it's the one that's about the staff
I use the
only.
staff one.
Yeah, it just wasn't working.
before we go through the policy review, let me make sure I can read them.
Technical problem.
Yeah, we don't know that everything is kind of like to say something, but I don't know why it's not.
question, if I could.
Sure.
Is the public going to be able to speak after we discuss about the mask?
No, this is the time now.
This is the time now?
Yep.
Tell them to go to the podium. Do you want to go to the podium and speak?
I don't want to cut.
No, go ahead. I mean, while we figure this out, you might as,
30 seconds. My name is Mike Callahan. I'm from here in Massachusetts. I'm new to the area, about a year and a half. I have a son, Blake, who's 9. He goes to Air Public Schools as well. He is currently loving it. The only thing I really wanted to say was I wanted to give the kids a quick voice if they're not able to speak here in front of all of you tonight, and just say, I think it's time that we let the kids breathe. Time to take the masks off, show their faces, be happy, and let them have fun. And if we can do it safely, let's do it if we can. That's all I really wanted to say.
thank you. Can I just ask you, did you say he's loving it or not loving it?
He's loving it.
Okay.
He's currently loving it.
Good, I was like, oh, no.
No, he loves it here. We're great. I'm from the Grafton, Massachusetts area. Was in the military and then finally settled here. Great place to live, right near 495. So
Yeah,
we are both currently loving it. But I just wanted to give them a voice.
yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I'm glad you're loving it.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'm gonna allow, it's actually Ken, but it's under Rachel, but his name is Ken, and I'm gonna allow him to talk.
Okay. Ken, once you're activated, if you could just say hello and let us know what town you live in.
Washington.
It's just,
Ken, can you hear me?
I can. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Okay. So I would agree with the last father. So my name is Ken. My wife Rachel. We both live in Ayer, and we have a 5-year-old Penny who's in kindergarten at Page Hilltop, and a 6-year-old Matthew in first grade. They're also loving school as well. So all good on that front. What they're not loving is the masks, and to be honest, neither are we. Especially in the current environment, when other school systems are pulling it back, other states, cities, countries are pulling that back. You know, there's a wide availability of vaccines, therapeutics, and I think that the data has kind of shown that kids aren't the biggest transmission factor or risk factor. But my kids, to get as the previous gentleman said, I'd like to give them a voice. I mean, my son and I talk about it pretty much every day driving to school. Like, they hate the masks. It's the one negative about school. And I used to love school as a kid, and I want them to love every part of it. And, you know, they're 5 and 6, and they're getting to the point where they dread that. You know, like, they've done their part. They're tough kids. But, you know, I think if there's a way to, you know, if you guys can consider, you know, giving, and I'm not saying banning masks or anything ridiculous. I'm saying giving them the choice to be able to choose to wear it or not, I think would be much welcomed by a lot of the community, and certainly by us. And that's what I wanted to put out there. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ken. I'm just thinking your kids have probably not been in a school without a mask, if their ages are kindergarten and first grade, so that will be certainly something new for them.
I don't know what to do.
and one parent that would like to speak, David Conrad.
Okay. David, can you hear us?
Hi, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I commented a couple weeks ago, so I'll make my comments brief. The only thing that I wanted to add to the discussion that we had a couple weeks ago is, for me personally, I currently don't have to wear a mask at work, at the grocery store, when I go to church, pretty much anywhere. You know, whether you agree or don't agree with that. And so it seems like a tragedy that our kids would have to continue wearing masks when me and my wife don't have to wear masks anymore. So that's one point that I wanted to make. Sorry, to back up, my name is David Conrad, and we live in Shirley, and we have 3 boys that attend Laura A. White. The other thing I wanted to add to this is it's certainly stressful, you know, having various variants and peaks and valleys of this pandemic that we're in. And for me, it's a lot easier to, dig my heels in and work really hard and mask up and stay home or work from home and do all these things when there's a big spike in cases and there's a lot of things going on, if it's for a short period of time. But that implies that when things are easier, meaning there's low case counts, there's low hospitalizations, there's great availability of vaccines, et cetera, it's nice that we have the option then to actually live life somewhat normally for at least a while. That gives us the courage, I guess, to dig our heels back in if things get bad again. So I would encourage you to, vote to no longer require masks at school. So thank you.
Thank you. No one else? Okay, so we'll give it a couple minutes, a minute. Minutes a long time.
Anything on the basketball game?
The girls won.
The girls won?
Yay!
Girls won.
Woo! As long as we're waiting, we might as well enjoy.
The score was 39-35.
Woo! Awesome, close one too. Sweet.
There is a message in the chat, but I'm not asking to speak.
Okay, sure.
This is Tim McEwen. As a parent of an immune-compromised child and survivor of dead siblings from COVID-19, please keep the mask mandate. The number of deaths has not changed. The date selected was for political reasons, not based on science.
Okay, thank you. Who was, I'm sorry, did
That
he,
was Tim McEwen.
from AIR? Didn't say, okay. Sorry, I didn't know if you had said it and I missed it. Okay, thank you.
And there's a lot of people commenting now.
Commenting on his comment?
Wanting it to be a choice.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna, there's no one else to speak, we're gonna move on and move on to our ongoing business. So the first item is a discussion on DESI's announcement to lift the statewide mask mandate for K-12 schools. Dr. Brenda.
Hi, thank you. So I wanted to just take a minute and provide some of the information that we provide at every school committee meeting, and then some follow-ups from the last school committee meeting. So as of today, we had 3 reported cases over break. There is 1 active case for a high school student right now. In yesterday's weekly communication, I had asked families to take the home test and try to do their best to report before 6:30 tonight. As of right now, I don't have any positive cases reported from today's testing. That doesn't mean there won't be some that trickle in, but there isn't. As a comparison, on January 3rd, that was the first day back from December break, we had 24 cases in Page Hilltop, 23 cases at Air Shirley Middle School, 14 cases at Laura White, and 5 cases at the high school. As of today, we have 1. The 14 students that were identified as immunocompromised were all contacted by Ms. Payne with an additional one today that was emailed. 12 of those families felt there was no need for any type of medical plan or accommodations for the children to attend school safely. 2 that were nervous about it were asked to contact their primary care physicians for suggestions on accommodations that we could make to make them feel safe in school. I know Ms. Payne reached out through email to another parent today offering the same. When we get that information and a doctor's note, we can certainly put together a plan to try to do our best to make sure that everybody is safe. And for any other parents who may not have shared that information with us, that we may not know about through medical records, please reach out to your school nurse, so that we can have you have a conversation with Ms. Payne, our nurse director, so that we can do the same for you. But as of right now, we are actively creating 2 plans, and we have reached out to help create a third. I don't know if that parent would be interested in that. As of right now, we have 228 staff members who are participating in the at-home testing and 640 students. The vaccination and infection rates have not changed since I emailed you this past week, because they update on Wednesdays, unfortunately, but AIR has a 31.8 per 100,000 infection rate and a 5.02 positivity rate, and Shirley has a 30.2 infection rate and an 8.6 positivity rate. Air Shirley Regional High School is 70% vaccinated, fully vaccinated. Air Shirley Regional Middle School is 65% fully vaccinated. Laura White is 42% vaccinated, and Paige Hilltop is 44% vaccinated. Over break, the CDC lifted the mask requirements on school buses. I sent out a Sunday night email letting parents know that though the CDC has lifted their requirement and DESE and DPH have lifted their requirement, there's still currently a policy in place through the Air Shirley Regional School District School Committee that everyone is masked on school buses and in school. That is the most up-to-date information that we have now, but we're happy to answer any questions, or if you feel I've left anything out, please let me know.
Anyone have any questions for Dr. Renda?
So how many reports did you receive this afternoon?
None. As of right now, we don't have any, there's none through, we have a Google form, Mr. Rocher, that we ask parents to fill out.
Right.
As of right now, no one has filled out that form saying that their child is positive. That doesn't mean we won't have some trickle in.
So but you have none positive. How many total reports
Well,
did
they
you
don't
have?
report
They don't
probably
report
if they're
unless
not
they're
positive.
I'll get you. Okay.
So we have 640 students who should have taken the test today when they went home, and 228 staff members. If we question, students might not be able to do it right when they're home from school. If they happen to be on the girls' basketball, boys' basketball team, they might not, right? And there's other reasons. But I would imagine our 228 staff, the majority of them have probably already tested. And so I would feel safe to say we probably don't have any staff that have tested that are positive. And they're usually a pretty good indication to how the students will go. For instance, when we came back from winter break, one of the biggest issues was the number of staff that we had positive. It was tough to cover classes. That week was one of the more interesting weeks of my professional career. I think we could probably all say that. These past 2 days have certainly not been anything like that. But like I said, we asked for people to report before 6:30. I'm sure some tested and didn't have to report, and there could be some students and staff who have not tested yet, and some reports may trickle in. But you know, we had, as I said, on January 3rd, the week of January 3rd, we had, well, over 56 positive cases coming back. And right now, we have one active case, and it's a student at the high school.
Do you feel that the winter vacation, of course, was a longer span of time, a longer number of days? So if people were contracted before, you know, say the middle, say Christmas, to use a date, then they would have had time to develop it in the next 3 or 4 days and then have it by the time they got back to school. Or this is a different, shorter vacation. So the development.
Yeah, you know, I'm not an expert on virus spread, so I don't know how to answer that. I can tell you Christmas break, typically there's a lot more get-togethers. You know, Christmas and New Year's, and I would imagine that would have a bigger impact in spreading than the gestation period. But we did ask over 500 students and over 200 staff to test on Tuesday. So as of Tuesday, we didn't have.
Tuesday, last week?
Last Tuesday, we
Okay.
asked, and we had never tested over break before.
Right, right.
So one of the benefits of this at-home testing is that when you have a break, you can test over break, and if there are people positive, they know to quarantine. So in theory, that should help stop the spread. You know, so we did ask for people to test over Tuesday. Whether or not they did it on Tuesday or at another time, I don't know, but we only had 3 positive cases reported to us over break.
I think for me too, one of the reasons of waiting till break was to see not only what would come of our school committee, but to see what the community around us would be, because COVID isn't going to attack just the Air Shirley students, it's going to attack the community as a whole, and then it's going to spread to our students. So for me, that was a big indicator of what the communities were doing. And I think at Christmas break time, clearly it was the Omicron spread, and it was a lot more rampant, and you know, we can understand why the numbers were as high as they were. So you know, having not seen that type of outbreak in the last week just among community members gives me a sense of feeling as though it's not something that we're going to see in our students necessarily.
Also in December, that was early in terms of when your elementary and younger middle school age students were able to get vaccinated.
Right.
You know, a lot of that age group weren't getting their second dose until around the winter break, just based on when it became available, when you could get appointments, and the 2 weeks between your first and second dose. So you had a greater percentage of the population unvaccinated going into that break. And you've also had a higher percentage of the population who's been exposed or had COVID between Thanksgiving and end of January, early February.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may, one thing I did leave out, we did ask school counselors and Mr. Clerk, can you help me out? We have a restorative justice consultant working at the high school. So the restorative justice consultants and some school counselors at every level put together advisory and homeroom lessons on respecting differences. That lesson has either been delivered or is going to be delivered this week. Part of it can be specifically about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, but it's mainly about people make different choices for different reasons, and we need to respect that.
Yeah.
So though that is always taught in our schools, it's going to be gone. It will be gone over again specifically for this.
Great. Thanks.
Do we have information from the Neshoba Board of Health
We do.
directly?
Ms. Payne, are you on? Ms. Payne, our nurse director, was going to join us virtually. If I can bring up that information quickly.
She in there, Erica?
I'm looking. Yes, she is.
Can you?
Yep,
Yes, the one thing that the Board of Health have shared with us was that on February 28th, when the mask mandate is lifted, that masks will still be required in school health offices and settings. Will still be required by students and by individuals who work in those health offices. That is, Renee, is that?
Wait a minute, I just.
Oh, excuse me.
It scrolled and I lost her on the list.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Oh, man.
Oh, yay!
Hey, Renee.
Nice to hear your
This
voice
is
again, Renee.
So I missed the beginning of the question because I apologize, but I was trying to get my speaker to connect.
Renee, was a question in regards to if we have received communication from the Board of Health.
Have we received communication as far as lifting the mask?
Well,
Have we sorted out?
and I think it was in general, anything that they're saying, and I'm looking at what you sent me earlier today, and though they're still recommending, but it's not a requirement. Is that pretty much sum it up?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
So when they say recommending, Renee, what does that extend to? So are they supposed to be, are the buses now exempt from wearing
The
masks?
CDC lifted
The CDC, but
CDC lifted it, so they're.
on public buses, on school buses,
School buses.
just buses
Yeah.
and trains? I thought the
All the
trains in Boston, you still had to have a mask.
I think in Boston you do, but Boston has made that decision locally.
No, I was just
Yeah.
trying to sort the whole thing out.
In Air Shirley, we still have that, because as of now, we have that policy in place.
Did the D bus company have a comment or a request in any direction?
They're waiting to hear which way we're going. Yes, so they can manage it.
But they're open to whatever we decide, is that, yeah.
I'd just like to say that the one thing I found very helpful was the input from the community, both tonight and at the last meeting. And the thing that rings true on people that spoke on both sides, the real angst in their voice and in their lives, and everything they were saying from the heart. I mean, it's not easier or fun to come to the meetings. We normally don't see this many people in a lot of our meetings. And I think everything they went forward, let us know how important it was. We're all tired of this. Everybody has pretty much had enough. And there's not really a right or wrong decision. There's not some hard and fast threshold that you can get on the front. We also want to give people their lives back safely and not extend this any further than we have to. Clearly, all the trends are looking really good. You know, but the thing that's still only one minor thing in the back that's sticking in my mind is how much of the normal high school stuff was lost in the last couple of years. The things that you remember your whole life was taken away because of what we just had to went through, and not really wanting to risk that. And the only risk factor I see now, from my standpoint, is I do know some families that did go away, and they came back. And of course, when you go away, you come back on Sunday. You know, and it takes a while to get a viral load big enough that's going to test positive. But I also don't want to extend this on forever, because there isn't that line that you have to cross. You know, so I think, given all the trends that we have here, if we just give it a couple more days, then everybody's load and test will be through. But I'd like to give people an endpoint. You know, me personally, I'd like to see us end on Monday. That would be mine. That would give anybody that came home loaded, tested, even though it may not be a great number, a couple people, they're not going to mix with other people, and it would give people some sense of closure to say that we move forward. We've been doing this for a couple of years, you know, and I think just giving us that extra margin and requiring just 3 more days of masks, I think it's a reasonable place to be. You know, it's not going to make everybody happy, but it's not possible to make everybody happy. But like in all good solutions, we can make pretty much everybody not happy with the result. Like there are things that you can take away, it's like, and that's usually the test. When not anybody is happy, you know, like you probably did a pretty decent job. And I think it's a fair and reasonable thing to just say, look, we're just going to roll with this to get some more results from the student body through the weekend. And barring something crazy in an emergency school committee meeting, which nobody here sees coming, that we should just select suspending our policy effective Monday the 7th.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I wasn't sure that was the reaction we were going to get, but.
I don't get a lot of that.
I know, really.
So Jim, seeing that we got applause, maybe that wasn't the.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I would just, Dr. Renna, you know, before the break, we spoke about making sure that families had time, if they had students who were vulnerable, making sure the teaching staff and administrators had time to prepare. It seems like those thresholds have been crossed. I think the CDC guidance federally is telling, seeing other states who are more conservative in terms of safety, Oregon, California, Washington, seeing them move away from large mask mandates in schools, seeing similarly communities who are more conservative, Massachusetts, Wellesley, Concord, moving middle of the month towards no mask. It feels like, again, we've been threading a really fine needle between student comfort, student academic experience, and student safety. And it's been hard to keep both of those sort of equally balanced. I think, like Jim, it feels like we've reached the point where the state data tells us we are at a place where it is safer. You know, it's not perfectly safe. There's some risk that families will incur if they decide to send their students without a mask, without vaccinations. But at this point, families have access to information. We've given them time. Again, students can get vaccinated. They can wear masks, and the staff is there to support them if they want to do that. And I think we'd encourage any student who feels safer to wear a mask, please wear a mask. But for those students and families who, again, it will help academically for students to be able to see their teacher's mouth. It will help teachers supporting students to be able to see their students' mouth. It'll make for a whole lot less laundry in my house cleaning that, right? So I think, like Jim, I think giving us this week, again, I know there are many families who wish students could have come to school yesterday without a mask. But hopefully these 5 days are not going to be the thing that ruins any student's experience, but puts us in a position where it's not 1 week without masks and then next thing we know, we need to roll back real fast. It feels like a relatively reasonable and measured response.
Yeah, I think it's time. I don't know whether, you know, today or Monday would make much of a difference at all, because the kids walk out of these buildings and all the communities around them, and the church and the birthday parties and the, you know, all of that. I was going to suggest Friday, because Fun Friday seems like, and it would still give teachers some time to be able to talk to the kids that may have extended vacation or you know, whatever. I mean, I'm okay with it today too. So I don't know yeah.
Yeah, I know. I do want to say, as a school committee, we didn't create the mask mandate, and we have
We
had
didn't cause the COVID either.
No, I mean, but we don't like it any more than anybody else. Like, we've had to impose something. We're not doctors. We're not infectious disease specialists, and we've had to make decisions about something that aren't even in our area of expertise. So it's been really difficult to do that. I do know we all love kids, and we want to keep kids safe, and we want to give kids a great education and a great experience in school. And I do think that the time has come to let them smile without a mask, and so we can see it. So I would agree with Cheryl in the sense that I don't know, you know, waiting makes a difference, but you know, it's reasonable to do that. I think too. Just the couple of days. I personally probably would rather see you know, them tomorrow, take it off March 2nd. But if it's and I have to bring up my other concern too is with our student athletes, where MIAA now has lifted the mask mandate for athletics, and now that we're in playoffs, I don't know what, I mean, our teams out there are masked today because we have a mask mandate, but what if they're supposed to travel to a school that has lifted their mask mandate? What's the implication for them? Like, I would hate to have them.
That is a fantastic question. I am not sure. I would lean on they might have to wear it because they are representing.
And that
Yeah,
bothers
surely,
me,
yeah.
to be honest,
But it
that,
could be under
Sure,
the
policy isn't just
auspices.
for the building.
So if we took them off and they went to another school where they were wearing them, it would be that school who would make the rules,
On school.
right? Think of it the other way.
Yes, I mean, I don't want to give a definitive answer. I could get that answer for you. I'm not sure, but there are certainly policies that when they are away on another campus, they are still bound by our policies as far as disciplinary issues. So this could be that too, but why don't you let me research that a bit?
Well, that would
I'll
play
get
into my
back to you.
decision, to be honest, because I wouldn't want to see our boys, girls, whoever, they both are going to win, go to a game on Thursday or Friday and be at a district, if it's an away game, where
so
they're not
Kev
required to
dominated,
wear masks
wasn't
and
it?
they'd have to wear them. Like, I just don't see that as being fair to them.
Fresno has one.
At this point, especially when we know we're lifting it, right? Like, why would we?
When would they be going?
Where are
Well, I
they
have no
going?
idea, but usually if this is Tuesday and they win a game, I would imagine the game would be by maybe Friday, could be Saturday, but it would be definitely before Monday, most likely, in a tournament structure, and I can pull
Chair,
up
can I make a
the.
suggestion?
Huh?
Can I make a suggestion?
You can make, yes, of course.
Depending if the game is Friday, it would be Friday evening. You could get the same effect by voting it off by the end of school on Friday.
Oh, right, so then it really,
Right.
yeah.
Or the end of school on Thursday in case it's, oh, yeah, if it's
That's only
okay.
2 more days.
Actually, you know what? If I can get online, I'll bring up the MIAA bracket.
I mean, again, what's a couple of days? You know, when they're, not every place, but so many of the, you know, out there in the community grocery stores and are mask optional, you know, still, there are some people still wearing masks, but it's not required. And if there's this big uptick in the state or in schools, we're gonna hear about it and somebody else is gonna step
I
in
agree.
and require. So-
Go
Sorry,
ahead, Steve.
Cheryl.
No,
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I think it's agreed that we all are focusing on the kids. It is a difficult decision to make. The things that have been mentioned before, I think are great. And also, we've been hearing, you know, parents saying that they're taking this into their own hands, you know, outside of the school system. That's encouraging as well. So I feel like we all, as a community, as our students, and us doing our due diligence, we're there. Like, I'm ready to lift it now and just not wait. I personally think that we all are basically coming together and having this contract that moving forward, if we need to put it back, we'll put it back. But I don't see the massive value, because there's always value, but a massive value in holding on these couple of days as well, especially while we have the opportunity to do it here tonight.
Very great.
I do too. Joyce, what do you?
So what Erica just said, and I think that brings up, so we, let's say we see some of the numbers of cases that we saw after Christmas. Do we suddenly then say we're going back to full mask? What is the other endpoint? What is the point at which you say, oh my God, we have 150 cases out of 1,600 kids, add the teachers into that. And then do we say, okay, we have an emergency meeting and we put the mask mandate back in?
Absolutely,
Yes.
because the kids matter to us.
Right.
And I think that we also would have enough information gathering from not only the caseload, but how it's spreading, for us to come together in an emergent
Right.
situation and put that back in place.
So, I mean, it's like, if you just say, okay, we're free, and that's good, but then, who knows? We live in an unknown thing here, and so do we say, our endpoint is, and we look at this, we have 44, 42, I can't read my writing, 65, 70, those are vaccinations, yes? The numbers you gave us there
The-
earlier.
70 at the high
The
school.
percentage?
70 at the high school, is that a percentage?
That's a percentage, yep.
Okay. And the earlier thing with DESI was that when we got to 80% vaccination, we could lift the mandate.
Right, but DESI is now waived that.
I know what they've done now, but I mean, you know, that's where they were, and now they've changed that, and, you know, it's gonna be damned if we do and damned if we don't.
Well, the one thing that I would add is, we have been served very well by following DESI and DPH guidance up to this point. I would say both from what I heard happened last year, and how we have been able to contain it this year, I believe this district has done an outstanding job with containing this. So,
Well, we
you
have
know,
not transmitted any COVID in school or out of school. It's all been outside. Is that true?
I don't know how we can say
Well,
that
That's what we-
definitively.
Oh, I thought we
No,
reported
but
that
I
earlier.
can tell you that the transmission rate in school is typically, it's under 2%, and some sources will tell you that it's under a 1% transition rate. So, following DESI and DPH and CDC has, I believe, served us well, and I would continue to use those sources as the expert sources. I mean, you can go out and find any source you want that is going to tell you anything, and part of our job now and what we need to teach kids is how to figure out what is a good source and what is not, right? We've stuck with DESI, DPH, and CDC, and it served us well, and I can't see why we would deviate from that now. Also, Mr. Kendall got back to us. If we're home, an away team would have to wear masks, but if we are away, we have to wear masks even if they don't have a masking policy, because that is our
That
policy.
bothers me.
Unless you waive it.
Let's what?
Unless you waive it.
Yeah, but that doesn't,
Oh.
well, yeah, but that interpretation isn't anywhere in our policy. Our policy deals with customer building. So
Yep.
it's really an interpretive thing, and I would say if you're in somebody else's building, they don't have it, then don't work.
Well, so there's some.
Right,
yeah.
so why
It's not
have
in our
it?
policy,
Then why even
because then
bother?
you're looking at it, then you're looking at what DESI's doing, and all things being equal, I mean, if we were looking at the exact same data set, and we didn't just have a school vacation, I'd be like, let's just stop,
Sure.
right? My only case is that, you know, people just came back from all sorts of places.
Florida.
It takes a certain amount of viral load to get a positive test case, and I think it's prudent to kind of let that small portion move through. That's my only reservation. Everything else is fine. Just looking at the data, if it weren't for, again, Jesse's position in picking that date was not, okay, I'm still not okay with, but that's what they did, and we have to live in the world they live. So I'm just looking for that little extra margin from that. That's the only reason I put the 7th. Without that, I'd be fine with tomorrow. But with that, I'm like, you know what? We can buy a little margin of safety and let people come to adjustment and say, at the close of school on Friday, we're all done with this.
Well, how would you feel if we were to say that at the end of school, the mask mandate now becomes lifted and it's mask optional in our schools? But if our sports teams were to travel to a place where masks aren't required, we specifically are, waiving the requirement of them to follow our policy at that point. I don't know.
Madam Chair, the girls' game, the next girls' game is this Friday, and we're waiting on confirmation of the next boys' game.
Okay, so that would make that moot then. I don't know, that really bothers me that we would put them at it can't be easy to be playing a sport with a mask on. I wouldn't want them to have to be in a position where they're not on a level playing field where that's concerned.
Well, we could go halfway and say Thursday. I mean,
Fun
I get
Friday's
it.
be- Fun Friday's
Friday starts on Thursday. What are Thursday?
I'm fine with that.
I just, again, it's like, I get what you're saying, Jim.
Yeah.
But we can keep saying that same kind of stuff, and the fact is, this isn't going away. We have all these options now and choices for families with choosing to wear a mask, choosing to get vaccinated, whatever it is. And what are we really avoiding? I don't think we're really avoiding anything by keeping a mask on kids till Monday.
Yeah, I'm not in disagreement with that.
The boys' game is also Friday. There's additional, Mr. Kendall shared additional information that the MIAA said the boys would be able to go, the teams would be able to go maskless if the policy of where they're playing is maskless.
Okay.
So,
It's the policy of where
live,
they're
live
playing.
updates during school committee.
Yes, they're invaluable.
Friday,
Is that, did I
2:30.
interpret that right?
No.
And it could be that wherever they're playing
If we
is
have a mask
requiring a
mandate in
mask.
place, our
I
kids
mean,
will
that
wear
could
masks
also
regardless.
happen.
Yeah, that could happen.
Unless
Yeah.
the school committee puts an addendum that says. you can
Do we know where they're
I
playing?
was- I was incorrect. The MIA says if the school has a mask policy. Sorry, I should have read the whole thing.
Then they have to.
If our school has a policy, the MIAA will enforce that policy, so our boys and girls would have to wear mask if we have it. However, both games are Friday. So
We don't know where.
Well, the boys have to win, don't they?
the boys have to win. And we could have just jinxed it.
Positive thinking, the boys will win.
There could have just
I
changed.
know they're going to, but I'm just making sure that.
What's the score, Michelle?
So can I make a motion?
You might know. So if the school committee made the choice to lift the mandate after school on Friday, I would suggest maybe 4 o'clock to give the time for buses. It would not affect athletics on Friday evening.
So moved.
I can't make a motion.
Let's make a full motion, Jim.
All right, I make a motion that we suspend the airborne virus protection policy, file EBCFA, effective this Friday at 4 p.m.
Go ahead, Cheryl, say what you want to say.
Why 4 p.m.? Why not when school is
Discuss it.
The bus.
Oh,
So if that bus goes at 4:05, that kid can rip that mask off at 4:05.
They won't.
what?
Why does it only affect the sports teams?
No, it's everybody.
Does it?
Everyone.
No, we're lifting the policy.
Everyone.
You're saying at 4 p.m. it would expire on Friday. That would make it effective for only people who are playing the sports currently.
No, the
No,
whole
it would be
policy.
Everybody.
No,
Be everybody.
The
The whole
policy would
policy.
be out of our policy manual.
There's one
I
policy.
understand what you're saying, but what I'm stating is that you are saying to end that policy at the end of the day, specifically, yes, it would encompass everything, but specifically for those people who are playing sports. So why would you not just have it end Friday morning instead of at the end of the day? As one suggested, make it a great Friday
On Friday.
and have everybody happy. Everybody has the choice outside of town to wear your mask, to not wear your mask, that's fine. But it shouldn't just be a positive thing for our sports team. And then they go the weekend and then they come back.
In the
No.
name of equity, I 100% agree. So can I amend?
Well-
Or how does that go?
So I didn't get a second, so you
Oh.
can do more.
Do anything you want. We have no second.
So I'll make a
That
motion.
motion's moot.
Oh, so nobody's seconding?
Nobody
Okay.
seconded. Go
Nobody
ahead.
I am
seconded.
going to make a motion that we end the mask mandate starting school on Friday, what is the date?
The 4th.
For all students with the exception of the requirement for the health office and all that.
Yeah, we don't have any control over that.
Okay.
Seconded.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further, oh, Erica did. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
So it will be a fun Friday at the Air Shirley Regional School District. Thank you for your patience with us, honestly, anybody listening. I said it before, I'll say it again, this hasn't been easy. I know for parents, it hasn't been easy for staff, it hasn't been easy, especially for our students.
I don't think
And
that's true.
we're grateful to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't think it's true?
I think that some of the kids that I saw just didn't care. They were
Oh,
fine.
Well,
I don't think you
Yeah,
could say that.
and
A
some
lot of
will
kids just
continue
didn't
to wear
care,
it,
so you
right?
can't say that.
and
it
some
was-
are going to continue to
I think
wear
it's
it.
important, though, that anyone who wants to continue wearing a mask
Yeah.
can absolutely continue wearing a mask.
Right.
So it is mask optional, we're not banning masks. And if I could add, the discourse in the two cities, I've been monitoring Facebook and some other social media platforms, is really polite for 99% of it. So, and the public comment that we got, I'm really impressed with the citizens of Erin Shirley and how they can have civil discourse and not arguments, both at the school committee meetings and online. It's refreshing because that is not happening in all the surrounding cities and towns. So that thank you for that.
I know that we've maybe moved on. I think it also goes maybe without saying, but I'll say it. I think the reality is our schools have managed this really well. Students, staff, I know it's not like people aren't wearing like I love my mask on their mask, but by and large we have not seen significant spread in our buildings. Our schools have fared better than the communities at large when we think about positivity rates. And I think that speaks volume to the teachers, administrators, students taking policy seriously, doing their best to stay safe. And, I think it's great we're in this position. Hopefully these numbers stay this way and we can, it's been 2 years since we were all saying like, this will probably be like 2 weeks, right? And, I think not even tenacity, but the stamina that you all have shown. I know I don't need to wear my mask every day. So the fact that you all have been doing this, I think is great, and thank you for managing it. And hopefully these next 2 days, compliance isn't a nightmare, but thank you all for managing this.
Thank you, we appreciate that. And if I could add, our teachers, our paraprofessionals have been enforcing this and doing a great job. Our admin assistants have done a ton of work. Our technology department has done a ton of work. Go and if you watch lunch and how the cafeteria workers are administering lunch, I mean, this has been a tremendous team effort by pretty much everybody but central office. So they get all of the credit. It's been outstanding, and hopefully it is some relief for people, both the students and the educators who want to go unmasked. Hopefully makes a very difficult year this year going forward.
So Dr. Enda, since you brought that up, does that mean that all wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, is there still going to be some sense of cafeteria setup and a few other things?
Social distancing is not going away. We're leaving.
I mean, I think you have to bring this up.
So the way the cafeterias are set up, we have no plans to stop social distancing at this point. Masks are going away. We're going to continue with hand washing. We're going to continue with social distancing. We're going to continue with the at-home testing for at least until April break. We're hoping that the state provides us with tests for after April break, but we don't know that yet. So really what's going away is the requirement to wear a mask. It is optional, and anyone who wants to, and that doesn't just include students. If teachers or other staff members want to continue to wear a mask, then they absolutely should. So the only thing that really is changing is the mandate to wear a mask.
I think one of the things too, and when you talked about the presentations to the students, it wouldn't hurt to actually talk to our younger students who haven't been in a school without a mask about the safety of being able to take it off and feel okay taking it off, because they haven't stepped into a building without one, and maybe just having that, it's a family decision. If you're decided not to wear a mask, it's okay, to not wear a mask when they have never been in a building without one.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Now, some of those advisory and morning meeting lessons may have included that already. They're much better. I wrote one and shared it with Lorraine. I'm sure the ones the school counselors wrote are much better than what I did. And they probably thought that through better than I did. I can tell you the one that I came up with did not include that. we could send out that suggestion.
Yeah, I just think,
sure.
Some of these kids probably are like, what do you mean I can't wear my mask? Some of them might be attached to it, who knows? They don't seem to be as bothered by it as, not every student, obviously. I mean, no one loves their mask, but,
But that's the great thing
There's
about
some that
making
do.
it optional. If they really are attached to it, they can
Yeah.
take it off in their own time.
right?
And parents, especially parents of kindergarten students, know they're very comfortable reaching out and asking for help with that type of transition. And we'd be more than happy to help with that.
Yeah, because
If
it
the
really is a
parent may want
transition
them
for
to
some.
Transition to not wearing it, we'll certainly work with anybody.
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, okay. So I guess we did that ongoing business. We did both at the same time, so I think we can move on from that to our consent agenda, which tonight is going to include the February 16th, 2022 minutes for release, as well as our warrant memo that is dated March 1st, 2022, which includes accounts payable warrant 1119 dated February 18th, 2022 for $72.50. Accounts payable warrant 1120 dated February 18th, 2022 for $617,255.75. Payroll warrant 17 dated February 11th, 2022 for $864,544.57. And payroll warrant 18 dated January 25th, 2022 for $796,984.09. So I'll
Madam Chair, I'd
entertain.
make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as referred to the minutes and the warrants.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, so the next item, oh boy, got it nice. Next item is going to be the formation of a policy subcommittee. We, as you know, had enlisted the services of Mask to work with us on our policy manual. They are now ready to meet with a policy subcommittee, but
Cool.
we had put our subcommittees, we had suspended subcommittees at the end of our last meeting last June, so, or May, whenever we did that. So we need to start a subcommittee to work on our policy manual. So I would ask if anyone is interested in doing that work before
Did they have a recommendation on numbers or anything?
I would imagine that it would be,
3.
2 to 3. She didn't say how many. No. So 2 to 3, I would say, if there's interest.
I mean, I'd be happy to help out, but I'm only here till May 10th.
How quick is it gonna be?
Not that quick.
Yeah. Jim, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know this is something you've done. Are you interested, or I don't want to not,
I would like to help out, but I have a lot of personal demands at this time.
okay.
If not for those, I would certainly jump in.
Okay. No, I know this has been your thing, so I wanted to give you the opportunity. Anybody? You want to?
I will.
Thank you.
I can.
Thank you.
There you go, 1, 2, we're done.
All right, so there you go. We're gonna have our policy subcommittee be Erica and Chris. Thank you both for doing that for us.
Going into busy season, I can't take anything else on.
Yeah. Okay, so we're good? We're good. And then, so if you could just coordinate with, once, is it Dorothy?
Dorothy?
I'll email Dorothy tomorrow and let her know, and then we'll figure out times that work.
She's very good.
Perfect.
Is a
Thank
vote
you.
required to form that committee?
Is it who?
A vote?
Do we have a policy to vote on a subcommittee to make a policy? Is that what you mean?
Do you need to vote to create a subcommittee?
I would recommend that we appoint Chris and Erica to be the subcommittee to meet with Dorothy Presser to work on our whole policy book.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Anyone? Nobody? Thank you
And
for.
you guys can report to us just about every month.
Every hour.
I expect emails from you daily.
We'll put you on our agenda once a month.
Live
or so.
updates, just like during school committee.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Live updates, just like during school committee, right?
Live tweets.
Actually, you probably don't have to report every,
Thanks for keeping us honest. Maybe what you could do is let the chair know as you're ready to update, as, we won't have it be something regular, but if you, whoever the chair is, just say, hey, we
Keep
have
it
stuff
on
to
the-
report. Can you
just tell
have
Michelle.
it put on the
Put it on the
agenda, or
agenda.
tell Michelle? Okay, so moving on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Renda.
So much of it is done, but we do have an update. As many of you have probably heard, that we've had some Wi-Fi issues over at the high school and to some degree, Paige Hilltop. There's been consistent reports, and this is from our technology director, Mike Tebow. There have been consistent reports from staff and students regarding wireless connectivity issues at the high school, which have resulted in unstable internet connectivity. The timeline was approximately from February 14th to February 28th. The initial review of the wireless network through software and conversations with staff revealed the following problems. Student smartphones on the network were being used for video streaming, gaming, video calls, multiple gaming social media apps, and the upload of content during school day hours. Heavy data upload burden placed on the wireless network. Over 90% of the internet traffic is from downloading content. For some reason, our wireless network is currently experiencing a significant increase in uploading content. This is typical a sign of inappropriate use of our network, virus, uploading of video content, Bitcoin mining, etc. Bitcoin mining, that is a great idea.
I was wondering
Download
if
speeds
someone
are
was using the electricity and Wi-Fi for.
they might not have enough to do too much.
This is what's happening in.
Hundredth of a
computer science,
Bitcoin, right? Thousandth of a Bitcoin.
So typically, our download speeds are 20 times faster than our upload speeds in most environments. The way that Mike expresses to me is that we have two 20-lane highways coming into the school for download, and we have one lane, Route 2A, going out for upload. Pretty much sum it up? All right.
Is that good?
So in response to this, the tech department has reconfigured the entire high school wireless network. They are working with HubTech on a network analysis, Cherry Road Technologies to discuss possibly increasing the current internet speeds, and Red River Technologies to discuss Wi-Fi settings in their software that are not working as designed. So the changes to the Air Shirley Regional High School wireless network were made on the 28th. Multiple changes were made over the past 2 weeks that worked for a bit, but then within a day or two, they were overloaded. So the wireless networks will be monitored throughout the academic day for inappropriate use and red flags for devices that are using excessive data.
Can they tell like what device is doing it?
Yeah.
Oof, do the kids know that?
You do now, they're all listening, right?
Oh, yeah, they're
Oh,
all
yeah,
watching
yeah, they're all
so
listening to
intently.
school. Yeah, Chris,
When it's
how old are
shut
your
down,
kids? Huh?
When it's shut down, they know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I think it's great because I know that we do have virtual classes that we offer our students, and there are students that have had to leave and go home to do those classes, and that we can't have that, right? You know, so I'm glad that it's being
How many
worked on.
kids do we have doing virtual classes?
Several.
10, 20, 30, 40?
I don't know that Erica could answer that. There's several, I'm
I
sure.
will email you that answer, and we'll report out on that in the next superintendent's report. I don't think it's as high as 30.
You might, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
Well,
kids
they
that
have to
take
go
their
home
electives
because it's
on there.
overused, right? Because people are using it illicitly,
Talking about engineering.
not because it's being used properly.
Correct.
Right. So if you reduce what is improperly used,
Then
then
it'll
they
work
don't
for
have to
the
go home to do the
students.
virtual thing. That's because of people not doing it right, right? Do I understand right?
Yes, and that's what they're doing already. In the last 2 weeks, that's what
The
they've
last
been
2
working
weeks?
on.
I actually did get a report from my student that it was better today, so that would make sense with your timeline,
Good.
that maybe that we're on the right path. And it's nice to hear Mike Tebow's name being used again.
Yeah.
Right. So didn't we do something early on about illicit use of
I would say
cell
that-
phones and computers and stuff? And, no,
So the
last
problem
year or
is-
the year before?
Every time we have a fix, students figure out a way around it.
Absolutely.
Well, that gives them challenges, so what's wrong with that?
They're
No,
smart.
They are. So and it's not just us. That's
Oh, yeah,
pretty
it's all
much
over.
everywhere. So this is that next fix, right? And then some of our ingenious students will find a way around it, and then they like to share with their friends.
Share with them.
You might want to tell the current, from a communication standpoint with the current high school population, that I was a member of the Charconian group when we created the wireless cell phone stuff. And I voted, probably didn't get a second, but I voted that we have a bank where you will put your cell phone when you enter the school. Now, some places in inner cities that have to do that, there are actually cottage industries where they have trucks that are put into this, where you have to drop off your phone before you enter the school. So you should, if Mr. Christie yourself could communicate that to the population, that extensive use, loading the network with, and this type of use of the devices could spur us into some other policy which will be
There's further
really
steps.
onerous. We have the capability to do this if we really wanted to do it. I mean, Mr. Tebow can do everything that he wants to do, but clearly we want the students in here to learn not to game and to upload personal videos and all that sort of stuff. So if they could, somehow that word could get out, that we can take much harsher steps if we have to. That maybe that will take some of the load off.
One of those
I think that's a good
solutions.
point. We could, there currently is not a school community policy on this. This is left up to individual handbooks in schools. So that is, we certainly could do that, and we can share that out. The issue is mainly at the
Mainly what?
It's mainly at the high school. We're not having issues really anywhere else. It affects Page Hilltop a bit because I believe they're interconnected in a way, but we could spread that around.
I was gonna say, Jim, one of
Use
those
Jim's
solutions
name.
that makes people unhappy and people happy.
There you go.
But one of the things I wanted to just point out is some of the issue, because now students are using their cell phones, like, for instance, in Mr. Moore's class, when he was here, they're using their phones to do their apps and things like that. Is that part of the problem? I mean, it seems like, yeah, I mean, some of the classes are genuinely using their phones for work-related things, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, I'm just throwing that out there.
When we have kids at lunch, kids are on their phones at lunch, typically it's not an issue. But if they're uploading content, or if they're Bitcoin mining, it could be an issue. If we see a student, when the weather gets better, drive to school in a Ferrari, we'll know he's Bitcoin mining, right?
No,
It'd be easier
if
to
you
figure
see
out.
him losing his car because he did Bitcoin.
That's like foreign to me, it's like speaking a different language,
I
but,
know.
But twice in there, Mr. People mentioned significant increase in upload.
yeah.
And to me, that means gain. But
Yeah,
that-
no, right,
that's
right,
what that-
yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
So if you take that part away, then everything, all of a sudden the highway's big enough for what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe there was one instance of a Nintendo Switch, right? That's not a small device.
Of what?
Wow.
But,
But
Like a
can,
Nintendo.
I guess my question was, so if a student is using that, you can say, oh, that's Jeff Brown's phone?
Not necessarily.
Okay,
So sometimes the phones or the devices just have letters and numbers. And you can see, if it's a gaming device, you can see its device, and it doesn't really matter whose it is, we're shutting it down and blocking it from the network. Sometimes a phone might say, it would say Erica's iPhone or, Michelle's iPhone. And if it's not a staff or it's streaming or using a lot, then we can shut it down.
okay,
But there could be 3 Ericas in the school, you don't really know which Erica because it just has a name to the device.
okay.
So it's really, if it's using that much traffic, then you can shut it down.
But you can shut it down yourselves without even going to them, you just shut it down
Correct.
on your end, yeah, okay.
I mean, if it's an Erica trying to play a video game during.
It's
doesn't-
Erica.
It doesn't matter if it's a student or a staff member.
It's
Either way.
You're gonna
they
shouldn't
shouldn't
down.
be doing that.
Yeah,
and
correct.
shut it
Meanwhile, in
down.
the teacher's lounge.
Yeah.
Well, then the complaint that I heard about cell phones is people sit across the lunch table from each other and text instead of talking to them. And stuff
Yeah,
like that.
that's
I'm
not
like,
what's
really?
taking
We're
over
supposed to be
data.
teaching communications, all
Yeah,
communications.
it's a whole
Yeah,
other ballgame.
good luck with that. All right,
Check your phone at the door.
so Adam, where were you in your report? I'm sorry,
So
Dr.
the East Shirley Regional High School Fields fundraising campaign, last week, Mr. Gleason presented on the high school fields fundraising campaign, and he referenced 3 school committee policies that hopefully the subcommittee group can take a look at first. We have included them in your packet. There's policy FF, naming new facilities, policy KCD, public gifts to schools, and policy KHB, advertising in schools.
Yeah, I
It was-
actually.
It was your request that, Pat has put those policies in your packet.
I actually think it might not be a bad idea to amend that public gifts one to have a certain threshold of dollar amount that we actually have to accept, like maybe a $5,000 threshold, so that smaller gifts we would certainly be made aware and would recognize, but wouldn't have to formally accept. But that's just a suggestion I'll throw out there. Joyce, I'm sorry, saw you.
Go ahead.
No, that's all I was going to
Anybody
say,
else?
is something to think about.
Okay. Well, and the trick is here that, and we should bring Bill and the world of finance into this, because everything has to be recorded. And I would think that the danger if making it public, I mean, you can have a list, we had 25 things, one from you, one from you, one from you, one from you, but it still should be, we have to approve all the expenditures in the school and all the money coming in. This is what we do. Finance is, that's what we do. It keeps everybody out of trouble. Oh, well, I forgot to record that. Oh, well, it's happened in other districts. And one of the districts that we know very well had a problem with some money that went awry. You know, so it's very tricky. And I think this may be close to what they're setting an amount. Well, if we get $40,000 in dollar bills, that's a lot of money floating around that someone could have some accusations about, and we don't need accusations for people.
But just, we don't approve every dollar that, if someone is having a field trip and they're, you know, paying for a field trip, we don't approve all that money coming in. We don't.
No, but that's a different account. That's a special account, and it's used for a special purpose. And it's designated to be for that student for that amount, right? But tell me, Sam.
Well, this
Stop
would be
me.
a revolving fund,
Mhm.
we would accept donation into for the field project only. That would be earmarked for it. We could separate them if we wanted to. You could pool all the smaller donations into one fund, and then we could have the larger ones in another fund that would be approved if you set a dollar amount.
So your perspective, I guess, you know, we are going to be maybe getting $25 donations towards the Fields project. Is all of those donations going to have to come to us to be approved? That's something to consider. And if you, what would your position be on having us have some sort of cap on what we?
I like the cap.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be it's going to be a burden on you guys.
Yeah, I agree.
You have to approve every single
But then
donation.
then do we approve those expenditures for the field? Who then says these are spent right?
So once you
I
establish
just want
the
to keep us out of
revolving
trouble.
fund,
I'm not going to get into something.
once we establish the revolving fund, then
Mhm.
you're free to spend those monies without further appropriation. So that's,
But it has to go to the field, so that revolving fund is, how descriptive is that revolving fund?
it's not,
Descriptive, restrictive, whichever word you want to use.
that's like Mr. Norton's donation. It earmarked for the field project, but it has a note on it, it says not restrictive just to that. So it could be for other uses as well with that notation. But it would be for the fields only. We wouldn't commingle it with any other funds.
We just want to keep everybody out of trouble.
Mhm.
And this is where you can get into serious trouble without realizing it. So we don't want the scandal that, you know, somebody walked off with $25, because that would be bad.
Yeah, but the fact that we approve a donation doesn't mean that we're out of scandal. It
No,
means,
but we accept the donations as money coming in, which is not coming in from the state, and it's not coming in from the towns, right? And there's some reason for that. What's the reason for that? We want the money to flow, we know that, but at the same point, this is public money.
Right, you can establish a revolving fund to accept this money
Mhm.
and then expend it as you see fit.
Okay.
So is this something that can be reviewed once we actually look at the policy?
once you actually, what, I'm sorry?
Once we actually look at the policy and come back with the recommendations?
Well, it can, but
This
just
is
this
gonna
one
start right
specifically,
now.
because fundraising is going to start on the fields within the next month or so.
Okay, so help me out here, so that I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding what's being said. So if we have this revolving fund, then that way it would lessen us having to approve every dollar amount that comes.
Well, the
Small
donations under the amount could go right in
Correct.
without your approval, and a certain amount and above would have to come for your approval.
Okay, that's what I thought. And if we have, those smaller amounts can be used towards expenditures, which would then assist us as we're trying to pay for the development of the fields.
Mhm.
Okay.
I
So-
believe what the issue is if you had $225 contributions, currently
We'd be
you would have
moving and
to.
seconding a whole bunch of $25
Right.
donations.
Okay, that's what I thought the issue was. I just wanted to make sure.
To me, reading this policy, this to me reads as though we're talking gifts and offers of equipment is something, this was intended to be something a little bit more than a $25 donation. This was more going to be like a large gift. If it's going to change the school plant or site, it's subject to our approval. The gifts become our property of us. Like it to me doesn't read as if it was intended to be every single dollar that's donated has to be approved by the school committee. It's more of large donations is what I read it as. I mean, it doesn't say that obviously, so we've been following this policy and accepting everything, but I think when we're starting a, buy a brick program and hoping to sell 800 bricks at, $300 or $100 or $500, whatever the amounts become, it's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to approve. And certainly, everyone should be recognized. We want to recognize people that donate to us, and they'll be recognized in one way or another.
On the brick.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, or, however it is. But it's going to be cumbersome with this policy in place, so I want everyone to be aware of that.
I don't think so, because if you read the third sentence there, gifts will automatically become the property of the school district. Good, we're not giving it back. Any gift of cash, whether or not intended by the donor for a specific purpose, will be handled as a separate account. And that's what Bill is saying, have a revolving account, right? And so then, and expended at the discretion of the regional school committee as provided by law. So there's a law that comes into here that has nothing to do with this, right? And since I haven't read the law, MLG 71.37A, which I should go read. But I think that's what you're saying. You put it in one account, it doesn't go any other accounts, it doesn't spend any other way. At some point, do you say, here is a report of revolving fund number 92, which is the field revolving fund, and we have an amount in there which is being released to the builders, architects, or whatever? Didn't we have reports like that when we were doing this building, whether we were moving money in or getting it from the state, and then it was notified that it was being moved out? Or did we? I don't remember.
We didn't do fundraising, so that would be different. I mean, maybe, I don't remember we approved financing, but I don't remember ever saying, okay, we're gonna pay, aside from the warrants where we sign off, we didn't vote to pay,
Well, when we review the bills are
consignment or
in there
whatever.
where they're coming from and where they're going to, right?
So it could be
On the
anything from
accounts.
the general fund, it could be from a revolving account.
Mhm. And of course, we were talking about taking some money out of our, I'm going to say it wrong, taking money out of our
E&D.
E&D, thank you, and putting it into the fields. So there is transfers to be made there.
Yeah, once it's
Right.
certified by the DOR, yep,
Yep,
we'll be bringing that forward.
right.
'Cause we do
And so
have
then you
room
would be
cap.
transferring that to that revolving fund for the field construction, basically.
Yes.
The section that the policy refers to is just saying the same as what our policy says, that it's gonna be held in a separate account.
So it's actually in there already,
Yeah.
without doing anything else.
Given Michelle's comments, I think that just looking at our policy, KCD, public gifts to schools, we could tonight just put in the $5,000 threshold,
Yes.
vote it in. There'll be a more extensive policy review that will be upcoming. But for right now, given your time in the fields and stuff, I think we should put that in place and just move along.
Yeah, and I threw out that 5,000, it could be 1,000, it could be whatever you guys are comfortable
I'm
with.
good with five.
Yeah. I just threw that out there.
You would just need it.
Does
in
that mean
last
everybody sitting here
paragraph.
is
Just
giving
put it in the la-
5,000?
We can amend the last paragraph now, vote it in, and that's our policy.
I agree.
Okay, well,
I would like to review the law first. We have a meeting on the 9th, and I think we can finish that on this because money is money, baby. And that's all you need to do is have somebody have a problem. I gave $5,000 and I don't know what happened to it.
When are we starting this fundraising? Aren't they trying
well,
to
we're
do it
not, yeah,
now?
we're not, we can do it on the 9th. We're not ready to,
Okay.
it's not gonna happen imminently, but Joyce, literally, this is the section right here.
No, I'm reading it right here, right? Isn't that this?
Yeah, that's what this is. This is 37A.
Oh, okay.
It's literally saying what our policy says.
What our policy says, so it's a word for word?
Well, not word, but school committees in cities and towns and regional school districts may accept grants or gifts for educational purposes from federal, state, county, and municipal governments or agencies thereof, charitable foundations and private corporations, and disperse the same for such purposes. Any amount so received by a school committee of a city or town shall be deposited with the treasurer of such city and town and should be held as a separate account and expended by the school committee without further appropriation, notwithstanding the provisions of section 53 of chapter 44. Any amount so received by a regional school district, school committee shall be deposited with the treasurer of such regional school district and held as a separate account and expended by said committee. So it's basically what our policy
Right,
says.
right. So there's nothing really that we need to change here to accept gifts.
Just the threshold.
No, we're adding a threshold that we don't have to approve gifts.
Because the approval is something that we added unique, or to the state law, right? The state law is that we can accept and spend, it needs to be kept in a separate account. We've added, through our policy, that we also want to have an approval after it's been accepted.
That's not to say that we wouldn't want
And
some.
that the superintendent will thank appropriately.
Well, because always if someone gives $100 from Mrs. McGillicuddy's muffin house, then we accept that.
Right. We wouldn't be
'Cause
forced to accept that.
That is not designated for the fields. So do we need a separate policy about the field construction, the field production?
No,
thing?
because we wouldn't have to formally accept Miss Blueberry Muffin's $100. We could just,
If it's going for the fields, we don't have to accept it. But
for anything, we
generally,
don't
no,
have to.
we
Right.
accept them all the time.
I know, but we wouldn't have to if we put a threshold in.
It wouldn't come before us.
Yeah.
Mr. Rendy could eat the muffins
I'm-
and not tell us, and we'd be okay with it.
So somebody could say, I'm giving $100 or $500 specifically for the fields. That would be in there, and we wouldn't have to approve that, but when you're depositing it, you know what that money is for.
Right.
Because the other ones, many times you can put them in a general fund, or you can put them as the person designates it, right? And we need to accept those, right?
There are other revolving funds that are designated for other purposes that we receive gifts to.
But Joyce, to
No,
your.
no,
Like Bemis is a good example.
Yeah, Bemis is a good example.
But that would be above a $5,000 threshold, we would accept that. If something, even if
Right.
after the Fields project is over, Bill wouldn't have to bring us,
No,
Every little.
life
Adam
touches.
is the one who's going to jail. So Adam wouldn't have to bring us.
Well, the Life Touch $1,000 donation. No one's going to jail. If Adam's taken off with $1,000, Adam's got, he's not going very far, so.
Oh, God, Facebook will be fun in the morning.
No, I mean, I think that 5,000, because first of all, many people want to know where their money's coming from, where their money is going, and they want it publicly announced.
Okay,
Well, it says right in, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It says right in here that the committee directs the superintendent to assure that an appropriate expression of thanks is given to all donors. So in
Right.
some way, the donor is going to get some sort of thank you. It doesn't necessarily have to be announced
Yeah.
here.
And the
This-
purpose of the school committee approval is not the gratitude.
Right.
I'm
No,
not
it's-
exactly sure, actually, and I don't know if other folks know, like, what the actual mechanism or purpose is of the school committee approval.
Well, we approve all expenditures.
Right, but in terms of us approving.
When she reads
the
these
donation.
warrants, those have been approved by us.
Right, so those are the expenses in terms of the revenue coming in.
Generally, your revenue is like from 2 streams.
Right.
When we
This
don't
is a-
approve it.
This is a third.
No, but we approve the budget, and then they have to vote that they're going to give it to us. So in here are the numbers that we're getting from the towns, right?
Yeah.
And from the state. And so then there is a transfer thing going on. Yes, so when we approve this budget, and then the money comes in, we know what comes in from the towns, we know what comes in from the states, we know what comes in from the buses, and this is all goes through, the purpose of the school committee is fiscal, is your
Right,
first
no, I know, but
charge.
I guess like we are reviewing it generally we review things in chunks as opposed
Right.
to individual
Right.
Yeah.
personal donations.
Right, and why wouldn't we say we want a quarterly report on any donations that are made, and that's
Yeah.
what we would get, and not, it
No,
doesn't
not
seem to
daily,
make.
not hourly, but,
Well, it doesn't make any sense to me that the burden is on our office staff to say, oh, let's bring this $25 donation to school committee so they can approve,
no, but they could, who said quarterly reports of what's come in?
me, that's what I just said.
Oh,
We could
you said-
ask for that, and so
Yep.
we would see, oh, we got donations in this amount. If we could read that at school committee to recognize people, but we wouldn't be obligated to accept those donations. So that puts, it just seems to me, it's gonna be a lot of work if,
Well, the line that says the superintendent will bring the donations to the committee for their formal approval. So if it's quarterly, we would still make an approval of
No,
that.
but we want to put a cap on like a,
Right.
So with all due respect, Joyce, I completely respect what you're saying, but it sounds like 5 out of the 6 of us are in agreement So I feel like we just need to move forward because conversation is circling the drain.
Okay.
And no one's moving, nobody's really changing anything. So I think at this point, why don't we just go ahead and make the motion, vote in the amendment that we want to put in there, the change we want to put in there, and we just move forward.
Well, then that'd be first reading of a new policy.
Whatever we need to do
Yeah.
to do it.
No, I mean, really,
let's
I'm
get it
sorry,
done.
guys. You know, you're trying to be shorthanded because we all want the money for the fields, and that's good. But
That's great.
not to
just wanna-
have,
I
not to
get-
have reserve
I understand
is-
what you're saying, but
is
we're circling the
necessary.
drain for 20 minutes, and no one has changed what they're doing. So whatever we need to do to get it done,
Well, somebody,
if I knew how to do it, I would do it. So someone who
So
knows how to do
I-
it, please start.
Okay, I will, okay, are we making,
Make a motion.
is this a motion? Okay. And I make a motion that we add to the sentence that says the superintendent will bring donations to the committee for their formal approval. Somewhere in there, we need to wordsmith this. Will bring donations
In excess
In excess
of,
of $5,000.
above $5,000 to the committee for their formal approval.
and then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Right.
expose. Oh, yeah, okay, that's perfect,
A
yeah.
second.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Any further discussion, please, no. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
aye,
So, okay, so one opposed, so.
be brave.
That passes. Okay,
But that is, so you're changing the policy?
Yep.
yeah.
So then that would be the first reading of that policy, and it has to come back for second reading of policy,
No.
because
Why?
you've changed
We
the
just
policy.
changed
We just changed it, it's over.
Can we be done?
Yep,
We need to be
It's
done.
over.
yep.
I will check on that.
Okay.
Okay, so was there anything else with the other policies, Adam, that, those were just you bringing to us to, because we asked for them, is that it?
Those are the three that we thought may affect the fundraising. From reading the policies, it was the accepting of gifts. That was really the big issue. There is some issues if we look at the advertising in schools, but it's really common sense. We're not gonna advertise alcohol or marijuana on a school campus.
Right.
And some other,
But it doesn't hurt to leave that in there.
no, absolutely, leave it in.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying to take it out. So we wanted to review it to see. But essentially, you have to approve any advertising.
Right. Okay. So really, in your eyes, the only action that really was limiting was the one we just acted on.
Yes, and I think it would make sense for the subcommittee to take a look at these policies.
Yeah. Okay,
That was the one we needed acted on.
in short order. All right. So was that it for your report? I'm not trying to rush you.
That is it for the superintendent's report, yes.
Okay. So policy review report, there are none. Chairperson's notes, there are none. Are there any topics for discussion not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of this meeting, Jim?
Yes, I wanted to make one comment. We talked earlier about the state swim meet. I just want to say that the medley relay, girls medley relay team finished, I believe, 11th. And in the swim world, there's no division A, B, C, D, E. So you're swimming together. Wellesley, I mean, you're going everywhere. And the 4 girls that broke the Brownfield record are students at that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give them recognition for that.
Thank you.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up, we were finally coming to the end of our math thing. And we just wanted to, if you could express our, or at least my, and I'm sure all of our sincere appreciation to the high schools, especially Spencer and the good doctor, because as the last couple of years went, I mean, it was a big upheaval for a lot of the kids that are in the high school. And they worked really hard to try to craft ways to make it somewhat fun, right? And they were very innovative in what they did. And that happened in a lot of places. But the one thing I think people don't realize is that when they're putting all this stuff together and working hard to try to get something that's okay, they know when they started that no matter what they do, it's gonna suck compared to not having mess, right? Right off the get-go, it's gonna be compared against what the world was like without math. And it's hard to continually work in that environment for, get-togethers and proms and awards and all that sort of stuff. And so it's really like a 2-year beatdown for them, but they were unflagged. They stayed on top of it, on point, and they didn't listen to the stuff on the sidelines, and they just kept moving forward. And I just want them to know that we recognize and appreciate all their efforts in that vein.
So can I just clarify, when you say the good doctor, you mean Dr. Meyer?
I do.
Just wanted to clarify in case she's not sure that you meant her. Anyone else, anything? Not, okay. So, thanks, Jim. And I apologize if I've left anyone out when I was making my comments about our excellent athletes and their success over the course of the vacation. I was just going off of what I had on the top of my head from what I had heard. So, thank you for letting us know about the relay team. Cheryl,
Okay,
communications.
so communications. So tomorrow, March 2nd, is the Air Shirley Regional High School 8th grade parent virtual open house. That's at 6 p.m. And then on Friday, Fun Friday, is the 8th grade students are visiting the high school for move-up day. That's so exciting. Monday, March 7th, progress reports issued for grades 9 through 12. Tuesday, March 8th is the PTO meeting at 7 p.m. at the library in the middle school. Wednesday, March 9th, there's a 90-minute early release. Lunch will be served. Dismissal times for high school and middle school is 12:50, and for the elementary schools is 1:45. Wednesday, March 9th, as well, is that there's a school committee meeting at 6:30 at the middle school in the library. Wednesday, March 9th is also the Air Shirley Education Foundation meeting at 7 p.m. at the high school media center. Wednesday, March 16th is a half a day of school for grades preschool through 12 and professional development for teachers. There's going to be a grab-and-go lunch for students. Parents and guardians will receive an email to sign up for the grab-and-go lunch a few days prior. High school and middle school is dismissed at 11:20, and both elementary schools are dismissed at 12:15. Then Friday, March 18th, trimester 2 ends for grades preschool through 8. That's it.
All right, so thank you, Cheryl. There is no need for executive session tonight, so I want to thank all of you guys, though, for as much thought and consideration as we put into this mask mandate, actually to everything we've had to do with regards to COVID and coming back to school and hybrid or remote, or, it's been a long 2 years, and I think it helped that we had each other. So thanks for that, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn. I'll second Cheryl.
All right, how about that? So moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned at 8:20.